Hello, everyone. This is Edward with the San Antonio Public Library, and today we have our Esports and Diversity discussion. Joining me today from the San Antonio Public Library, the Esports Committee, are Gina Garcia from Bazan Branch Library and Cassie Garza. Our guest panelists today, we're going to start with Ansley Partosa. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Ansley Partosa. I'm representing the Greater Gaming Society of San Antonio. And the Greater Gaming Society is a community group of developers and artists and other creative people who also like video games here in San Antonio. And San Antonio Smash Ultimate is also what I'm representing, and they are the huge group of people and players here in San Antonio for the game Smash Ultimate.
Awesome, thank you. Caitlin, can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, my name is Caitlin Pimienta. I'm the current head esports coach at St. Mary's University here in San Antonio. I've been working in esports for roughly 5 years, and so I'm very, very fortunate to be back in San Antonio working on esports initiatives.
Thank you. Chris.
Hey everybody, Chris Sines here, store manager at Play Live Nation, premium gaming lounge. Got video games, card games, tabletop, do different events, tournaments, all-nighters. We host birthday parties, really awesome birthday parties. Also founder and owner of Texas Gaming Empire, esports organization. We sponsor teams, we host different tournaments and stuff. Some really awesome stuff. Come check us out.
Thank you, thank you. And the new person to the group, Philip Torres.
Hey there, YouTube. I'm Philip Torres, owner of Shenanigans Gaming here in San Antonio, Texas. We run tournaments as well. We have 24 custom-built gaming PCs that are top of the line. Yeah, come check us out for all of your tabletop and esports needs.
And last but not least, Travis.
Hi, my name is Travis Yang. I'm the head esports coach for A&M San Antonio, working right now just to get ready for our inaugural season.
Great. I want to thank all of you for joining us today and joining us with the discussion. And today's discussion will focus on diversity. What does diversity mean to you? Caitlin, can you tackle that one for me?
For me, diversity is a couple of things. Diversity for me also is diversity and inclusion. For me, it's representation. So seeing someone that looks like me represented in a group in some way, shape, or form. It's about feeling welcomed, especially in esports, feeling welcomed in a community. It's being accepting of different people, different ideologies, different perspectives, and recognizing the benefit of having varying life experience, work experience, what have you, because when as a group, we're presented with a challenge, having that kind of experience and different perspectives allow us to find a really good solution by, taking apart the challenge and looking at it from different people's point of view. And so for esports, again, to me, it's about feeling like I belong in a group, that I'm represented in a group, and that, my counterparts also feel that way.
Awesome. How about you, Travis?
Caitlin said it very well, so I'm going to try to echo what she said, especially in esports, right? Making sure that when it comes to diversity, getting individuals from all different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and making sure that they have an opportunity to present their ideas. And I think especially in esports, different from traditional sports, esports has the opportunity to have, men and women together, competing, obviously. So that already, just from the start, you've got two, completely different experiences there that is unique to esports. So I think for us, it's really important that we are actively trying to bring as many voices and backgrounds together.
Great, that's a great answer. Philip, how about you?
Exactly, just hopping on what Travis and Caitlin both shared. Esports also has the ability to bring in people of all shapes and sizes, all colors, all educational backgrounds. Being a competitive player, I was able to travel the nation and meet players from all around the world. Again, all body types, all people with disabilities. Esports is an amazing place to be.
Great. Ansley?
Yeah, I definitely feel like having different backgrounds and different like ways of life and everything are really what makes the esports scene diverse, and especially important is having just that open environment because we all have kind of a level playing field with video games, it seems like. So having yourself represented or even different groups represented is like very huge for diversity.
Well said. Chris.
Yeah, it's incredible. Pretty much what everybody just said. Gaming is open to everybody. I know the local community that we work with does a very good job of making sure everybody's included and nobody's excluded. And we just invite that competition, whether whatever color, skin, or religious background or gender. We all just love to come out and compete and have a good time.
Diversity is the main point we want to stress within the San Antonio community in the public library. Do you see any barriers that prohibit diversity among esports or gaming in San Antonio at the current time?
Already saw me typing. Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things that can be barriers to entry. I think there's definitely some old stereotypes that need to be retired. One being that video games are just for the boys, and that is not only kind of infantilizing to men, but it also excludes women, which we know, everyone here plays a bunch of different games. It's not just, oh, me and Ainsley only play Candy Crush. No, we, I think that's one of the societal barriers to entry is the stereotypes. One of the other challenges, I think, is the accessibility and the opportunities. It may be, if you're not actively looking for a community or a way to get involved, you may not recognize what the opportunities and the pathways are. So that's one thing that I know I struggled with when I first started looking for similar communities. And the last thing I think is a challenge is the monetary barrier to entry. If you don't have money for a console or a PC or high-speed internet or a data plan, if you're playing Fortnite on your phone, which I don't think you can do anymore, you're kind of you're behind already. If you don't have that equipment or access to that equipment, how are you supposed to compete on this even playing field when the challenge is just getting to the playing field?
Said.
Let me go ahead and jump in and ask a question. Maybe Caitlin, you'd be a great candidate to answer this, but as an esports facilitator, how is your organization or you yourself closing those barriers or closing those gaps?
So we look at it in a couple of different ways. First is the inclusion piece, making sure that everyone who wants to be a part of the community feels included, they feel that they're heard. And so one of the things we're doing in our Discord is making sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, whether that's in voice chat or text chat or what have you. Everyone is invited to our events. Everyone is invited to our game nights. Everyone is encouraged to run their own pickup games. So again, that's just one piece. In terms of bridging the accessibility gap or the monetary barrier to entry, one thing we are working on this year, specifically at St. Mary's, is we are in September running a live stream fundraiser to raise money to create a handful of recruiting scholarships specifically for players of color and minorities, because we recognize that there are a lot of barriers to entry, and the more players that we can incorporate in our program, the better it makes our program. Again, it goes back to the varying and different life experiences and perspectives. Same thing matters in a video game. You've got 5 people on a team. There's more than one way to win a game. There's more than one way to strategically I suppose, to strategically put yourself in a league or a competition. So I think we we're starting small, but we're working hard to bridge that gap. And I think it's a big one.
Yes. What we have to do, break those barriers down. Philip, I saw you wanted to say something also.
Yeah, I was going to touch more on the monetary accessibility problems that people do have, and I think that's the biggest one going forward in esports. So different cultural backgrounds, different racial backgrounds. Again, some suffer from monetary issues, and here at Shenanigans Gaming, we have rates that are accessible to everybody. Our tournaments are open to everybody. We encourage everybody to come out. And I think that's the biggest issue moving forward in esports. An entry-level PC could easily run $500. For a top-of-the-line competitive PC, probably run more closer to $1,500, which a lot of kids can't come out of pocket for. They're asking their parents to make these big purchases for them. And that's probably one of the biggest barriers going forward in the world of esports.
Very true. Very true. Travis.
This kind of just more about my personal experiences, but it ties in with that financial aspect. Prior to coming down here in San Antonio, I was working for 2 years up in Ashland, Ohio. That institution I was working for was a private institution, so obviously base tuition and whatnot is much higher than down here. But I see a great difference in the kind of students that we were attracting in Ohio. Almost all of them were committed or were already focused on PC games. They had their own PCs. They, have been playing that for years. Coming down here, south side of San Antonio, it's like the complete opposite. A lot of these kids have never had even a laptop, right? A lot of them fortunately have consoles, right? And that's what built their interest in games. But, they've never seen a gaming computer, quote unquote, or gaming chairs where they never, they may have heard of esports, but they never even thought that there would be an opportunity for them to participate in esports, right? Especially while going to school. So just kind of taking that into account and trying to, change, because obviously in Ashland, focus on recruitment. Down here, it still is to an extent, but you got to recognize that there's differences in the kids that you're working with. So you want to provide, different opportunities for them.
Right, because every community is unique. So you have to structure a way to recruit those kids based on the community needs.
Absolutely.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Again, on a past podcast, I had mentioned how TG going nonprofit, and part of it is trying to recruit funds to be able to help cover venue fees for people that maybe not even be able to cover to pay for those. Like Philip over at Shenanigans, I'm sure he offers like some group rate discounts and stuff like that. So sometimes you get like the Big Brother type clubs or whatever. And you try and do reduced rates for them. And stuff like that. So, whatever the community can do to help out, we generally try and do, and just try and make it as accessible. Cause like Coach Yang was saying, it's pretty interesting. Like, we still get a lot of kids that come in and, they see all their favorite streamers playing on PCs and they see our PCs and they're like, oh my gosh, PCs, and so it's that also is kind of interesting to see the way of gaming, like how much longer your console is going to last, because they're almost getting to the powers of PC. So it's like, so it'll just be interesting to see where the future with the consoles goes as well.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in like with the whole diversity and everything in gaming. I truly believe that it's great that we have these places here in San Antonio now, like with Shenanigans and Play Live and everyone, that like give people the ability to access those computers, especially if like everyone knows they're really hard to like get because they're very expensive if you want to run the best. Even sometimes having the best internet connection can be difficult for people. It's usually for some people it seems like it's a necessity, but if you can't like be in that area or if you're not monetarily able to, then it's very difficult. The other huge aspects I feel like of diversity in like gaming are like breaking down stereotypes for women and barriers. I really like the games where you get to communicate with the team via, I don't know how to call it, keyboard shortcuts, because one of the weird things, like as a girl playing games, is I do not like to talk or make call outs, because then oddly it feels as though the focus becomes on me, my voice, my gender, and whether I'm like an 11-year-old boy or whatever, rather than like the purpose of the game and winning the game. So I find that breaking down those stereotypes and seeing, I feel like there's a more resurgence of women in gaming, but the reason why it's so difficult for it to keep going is like I would like there to be more of a safer environment. And I feel like locally we have been doing pretty good at creating safe environments, either in person or with the online tournaments, to let anyone of any background come in. But I still believe that it's more like we never had such big discussions before about diversity and like everything for esports. So if we continue this discussion and continue to look at, well, will people feel safe like this? Will families be safe with their kids like coming to tournaments like this? Or will women feel equal in this tournament? Or even just like coming out and hang out, playing games casually. I feel like that's very important for the community.
You bring up a good point. I want to ask a follow-up question to that. We mentioned breaking down barriers with inclusion for women, but also the toxic environment that online playing could bring you in the chat rooms or discussions like that. So what are the resources or factors that we need to take in consideration to break down those barriers for women and to try to remove that toxicity in the chat rooms?
You just got to call it out when you see it, you know, because you can't control other people, but you know you can stand up for what's right. And so you know if you make an effort to stand up and be the person who's going to call that out, you know you'll make a difference, one call out at a time.
That's a great answer. Great answer.
I agree with Chris. Like the online harassment and bullying that we see and the toxicity, like, yes, we know it's there. We've seen it for years and years. We know that it is oftentimes super targeted, whether it be at someone's gender, someone's race, or because, you know, the role that you're playing, what have you. I think it really does start at the individual level in that, you know, if I see someone in a game who's being harassed, I have to speak up. I have to say, hey, you know, cut that out regardless of whose team they're on, because just muting someone and just blocking someone doesn't really solve the problem. Like, yeah, it's an easy fix. And, you know, I've definitely muted like 100 people in League of Legends, but it doesn't fix the problem, you know, in the next game or the 100th game, or doesn't fix the game for the players on my team that are female, or that are women, sorry. So yeah, I think it definitely is at the individual level to start, and, you know, probably got to apply some pressure to the developers who aren't taking this as seriously, or allowing, you know, a person to make multiple accounts and continue their campaign of toxicity.
I do have to add to Chris and Caitlin that there is, you know, once you call it out, there is a self-regulation. You know, people self-regulate themselves at different levels. You're saying like at a personal level. How does that change in a collegiate level or in a public, you know, venue level? I know with the San Antonio Public Library, when we've had, you know, Smash tournaments or any kind of video game tournaments, we fall back on our patron conduct policy. And if it's disruptive behavior that, you know, affects more than one person or an individual, then yeah, we're gonna ask that person to leave. We'll get them our policy, and then we'll go from there. We treat them like we treat all our other patrons, and that behavior does not fly, you know, in certain aspects of the library. So could the group add on what they do to prevent that kind of behavior, or the consequences for that kind of behavior in your, you know, different organizations?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, obviously we all love some good trash talking, but there's a difference between, you know, competitive trash talking fun and then just being completely disrespectful and degrading somebody. You know, and being disrespectful is just uncalled for. You know, obviously depending on this, you give the warning, you know, and if they still go, you boot them out. I know Ansley can speak in the Smash community. There's actually bans on players from being able to attend tournaments because of you know, hostile type of actions. And you know, obviously you got to de-escalate the situation because the last thing you want is physical violence. Luckily, no issue like that has come up. You know, and you know, some communities are a little funny. Different communities are a little different because, like, you know, you get to that like Call of Duty scene, you know, they're like standing up yelling at each other. You're like, oh man, I got to de-escalate this. But then after the thing, they're like, hey man, good game, good game. You know, it's just like that in-game mind game that they like to play. But again, there's difference between like the competitive, you know, trash talking just to get in the sight games versus like being completely disrespectful to somebody based on, you know, race, gender, culture, or anything like that.
Very
Philip,
true.
you want to add something to that, Philip, since you're, you know, also a public venue?
Yeah, in my experiences, starting from the amateur level and working my way up to the professional scene, just speaking on that, I'd say as you go up the ladder, there's definitely more tolerance for lots of inclusion and just everything, and it's at those higher levels it's a lot less common, and it's in the amateur levels where you do get a lot of issues with people, but it is because there are a lot more competitors there. If you're playing online, that is just someone with a mask on. You do not know who they are. They can say whatever they want to. It's not regulated very much. And there are games that, like Ansley said, they only allow you to chat in game, which is something that maybe developers start doing more of. It's harder to do in team games, but a lot of 1v1 games, they only allow in-game chat, something that you can take care of pretty easily during game development. But that's from the competitive side of things. That's how I've witnessed it. It's really easy in store, like Chris said, to handle situations. Being a manager, you can walk up to somebody, pull them aside, have a conversation with them. If they don't like what you say, they can leave. And that's pretty much how we handle things here at our store. And I'm pretty sure tournament organizers do the same during their tournaments. In person, it's really not hard. When you get online, that's where it gets rough for a lot of people.
They get a lot braver online.
Online is horrible. Travis, how about you? What do you have to add to that?
Sure. So I think Cassandra was, she asked a little bit about, you know, at the collegiate level. So for Caitlin and myself, I think fortunately, this is one of the few spaces where we have a lot of impact on what goes on and what, you know, we find acceptable and we don't find acceptable, obviously, because as coaches, we are in direct control of our rosters and, you know, we create our own guidelines. Usually we'll fall in as well as the following the guidelines set by our, you know, athletic departments or by university. And in addition to all the conferences that we compete in, they also have their own guidelines that, you know, we need to make sure our students are following. You know, just for example, if we have a student that's doing something they shouldn't, you know, maybe they go through a warning system, still problems, you're gone. That's it. Doesn't matter if you're on scholarship, whatever. You know, you agree to this stuff when you join the team. Just as a personal example, I can think of there was at one point we were traveling to a tournament in Pennsylvania with our League of Legends team and our Overwatch team, and we actually had a girl on both teams. But the girl that was on the League of Legends team, there was some guy, you know, she was just walking around. We weren't even competing, and he was just making some weird comments, you know. And we actually just went and talked to their coach straight up. You know, she's like, hey, this guy is kind of doing some weird stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna talk to his coach. And you know, fortunately, I already knew that coach in person, so I'm sure he took the right actions. But there's definitely a higher level of responsibility, and again, that's why the coaches are here. That's part of our job, is to do that. To touch on a kind of the earlier subject as to kind of what efforts are going on in the scene for diversity and inclusion. One thing I've kind of noticed up until this point, and I think on one hand, it is a good effort, but on the other hand, it's kind of misguided. If you look at the professional level, for the past few years, there have been many tournaments, for example, let's say Counter-Strike Global Offensive, where they're women only, female only tournaments. So on one hand, that is right. It seems like a good thing, but on the other hand, when you look at the reception to those events and the comments and the feedback, a lot of it is not very good. It shows number one, a big lack of understanding from the people who are looking at these tournaments. But also it makes me wonder, were women involved in creating these tournaments? Professional teams will build teams, women only teams to compete in these events, but the way they market these teams is completely different how they market their men's teams. So I think as time goes on and more women become involved at those higher levels, from the team side, from the tournament side, we'll see better solutions, not just events that are women only, for example, because I think that that's something that esports can do better. We don't have to have women only tournaments, just kind of food for thought there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I understand that perspective completely. Because it's got its pros and its cons. Because like last year, we ran a women's only 2K online league, and it was asked for by the women because they wanted more exposure. Because when they're playing in these pro-am games with the guys, the guys kind of do their thing, and everybody's trying to show off their skills. And so, the women really wanted more attention. And so, but then, we announced the league and stuff. And on Twitter, there's like, multiple comments about, well, why just women? Why blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, it has its pros and its cons, because on one hand, you're giving the women the visibility that they need to try and further their careers and stuff like that. But at the same time, you hate to look at it in the aspect of like, having to do that. Like, people should just be able to see the women play with the men and be able to see their skills through that and stuff like that. And men need to do a better job of making sure and spread the wealth and spread the visibility, because as y'all all know, a lot of these games aren't just about it's about the team, and you really need everybody to flourish in order to be successful.
Very true. Ansley, would you like to follow up to what Chris said?
Yeah. I think that women tournaments, or all female tournaments in general, seem like kind of a step in the right direction. It's like there's many situations in events I've seen where their heart is in the right place. They're almost there. They got a good idea, good intentions, but it always falls short of like, no one's perfect, everyone's learning. And it's understandable, because it's like, maybe it wasn't your background, or maybe you're in you grew up in an environment where it was very patriarchal, or like guys rule or whatever. But I think that in my experience, for an organization called Smash Sisters, they ran a female or a women tournament on the side with a super major called Frostbite, and it worked out pretty well. And they included transgender or like gender fluid people and everything. So I think it was okay, because it wasn't the main focus of the tournament. It's like a side option, as the same way that Alpharad had all items on all random stages. Like, they're just side tournaments. It's not the focus. But whoever wins those, or whoever participates in those, they find their fun group who like to play with items, or they find their group of women who actually play the game and everything. And it's also casual, so it's like low bar and less pressure, which I feel is at least the first step for inclusivity for people. I feel if people want to get into competitive, they have to at least learn to enter it casually too. So, one of the things I wanted to say, I forgot, is it's great that all of you guys are from huge backgrounds of like collegiate and everything, and you can have the ability to call out people. But I think it's hard for people to call out others if they're friends, or if maybe they're not like the best guy in the room, or they're just a person who randomly comes in to tournaments, or even to play with people not competitively. So I want it to be addressed that, well, at least in the San Antonio Smash community, we have a anonymous Google form now, because there was a lot of allegations and harassment coming up throughout the country and throughout the world, I guess, about players. But it's great because then everyone is finally able to speak up and able to voice their opinions on things, and it really gave way for reform. So having an anonymous Google form gives people a safe way to step back and say, hey, this person was doing such and such, like, can you talk to them? So I believe giving people a safe environment, or even just knowing that it's hard to call out friends, or you don't want to be that guy, it's important to recognize these are bad actions. So
It's a great point. It's an excellent point. So do you feel that having these co-ed tournaments or just female tournaments will be easier gateway to have more co-ed tournaments because the harassment's not there, the toxicity isn't there? Caitlin?
I kind of agree and kind of disagree with everyone's take on the women-only tournaments. For me personally, I agree with Travis in that, like, it really depends on who's running these kind of events and tournaments, because as Ensley said, like, their heart could be in the right place, but like the execution could be really, really subpar. So for me, when I see these events, I definitely think they're more often than not really good if they're run by event organizers who are listening to their community. I think they can be a really great, like, first step into esports in a safer environment. And I think these kinds of events and tournaments can be really supplemental to the overall competitive scene, right? It's not taking away from a big tournament, it's adding to the tournament space. So I think, you know, if a player is, you know, nervous, or specifically women, if a woman player is nervous about competing and they find a female only tournament to compete in, I think that's a really great stepping stone in, you know, networking with others who may be in a similar position, and, you know, eventually taking that to a bigger tournament. But yeah, it really depends because every event is going to be a little bit different and everyone's expectations are going to be a little bit different. And I think as long as the event organizers are open to feedback and applying feedback, I think that's really important going forward for these kinds of events. Keeping in mind, like, the point isn't to detract from overall competition, it's to add more competition. And if esports is about, you know, online multiplayer team-based video games, then more competition means more practice, more avenues to get better. So that's how I feel about that one. And in terms of, like, the calling out someone that you know, I think that's really, really difficult. Like, if it is your friend who says something super problematic, then, you know, as the individual, it's really easy to call out a stranger on the internet for being mean and being a bully and, you know, telling them to knock it off. It's really hard to tell your friend or your family or, you know, someone else that is close to you to, hey, that is not okay. That is, you cannot say that. And it's, you know, you have to really consider, because I know this person, what is the best way to talk to them about it? Do I just call them out and they, you know, they've got the kind of personality to stop? Do I try to explain to them why this is not something we say? Or, you know, do I try to bring in someone else or bring it to the attention of the venue or the tournament organizer that, like, this is going on? You know, it's a really tough decision, and it's going to depend on how, you know, your relationship with that person and how you think they may best respond to being told, you can't say that, that's mean, you're being a bully.
Info's there. You can reach me most actively over email and through Discord. Be sure to join the Facebook group. You'll find the Discord for the Greater Gaming Society there. And if you search up the San Antonio Smash Ultimate community on Facebook, you can find our Facebook group there.
My name is Chris Sines. Obviously, y'all can always call or text me on my cell phone that's there, 210-260-5233. You can go to the website, texasgamingempire.com, Twitter, Facebook, email. tons of ways to get in touch with me. If I don't respond the first time, make sure and message me again. So always a lot of messages going all over the place with all the different social media platforms. So yeah, don't hesitate to bug me.
I am Philip Torres, owner at Shenanigans Gaming and Esports Lounge. We have all of our info available on our website, shenanigansgaming.com, and we are located in San Antonio, Texas at 5251 Timber Hill, Suite 104.
Hi, Caitlin Pimienta, head esports coach at St. Mary's University. The best way to contact me directly is going to be through email or Twitter. If you are interested in the St. Mary's Esports program, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you join our community Discord.
Hi, Travis Yang with A&M San Antonio. Like what Caitlin said, best ways to reach out to me, preferably Discord, followed by email. We have a team Discord / community Discord. Feel free to check that out. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see me rant about Valorant. But other than that, check us out.